Alrighty. So this is the site director nominee for August of 2022. Alright, I've got a couple questions for you. The first one will begin with, can you elaborate on the inactive essay removal order you were speaking of making in the debate?
Yeah, so that's something me and Brandon were talking about for a while now. This has only become a thing towards the end of tenures when it comes to site directors. It's very important for site directors, and especially the site deputy director, which seems to be more inactive, that they're constantly enabling themselves to be active. And this is actually technically already in the Constitution to begin with, but we're going to elaborate it further in the Constitution to further elaborate that if you see an activity within your within either the HOS, the SA, any higher up that you really know of, you need to be able to take them out of power, and instead of allowing corrupt people to maintain themselves in power, you need to be given that power to remove SA. More specifically, we're talking about SDD and SD here, but if it does have to do with HOS, yes, if they're inactive, if they're constantly going on LOA, there should be there is already something in the works, but it's usually being used for corruption or generally bad decisions that disable parts of the site. But the site not constitution should be adapted so that inactive SA should be removed, and just to elaborate further, a voting system. If a HOS determined that the SA member is not active enough, and they could prove it in front of multiple votes, a vote will take place between the HOS and the subsequent enlisted in order to remove that person from office. But there has to be a minimum guarantee, and that minimum will probably be around 5 days of complete inactivity. No general orders given, no interaction on Discord. So, we do have to set a limit and a basis, and so that basis will be set. But there will also be contingencies in place in case a guy, a site director, comes on every 5 days just to say a few things. And we have to define activity in the Constitution, which will be done in a thorough manner.
Alrighty. Would it be something like let's say one of the HOS believe it, so the EC create a meeting or something like that?
Yeah, it could be EC, it could be HOS. Somebody just has to say it. Usually, it would be a meeting between the HOS to determine that they determine the SA to be inactive, the specific person to be inactive. As long as you get a majority vote, then bring it down to the enlisted, who will really make the decisions for it, and then have a general global vote to determine whether or not that person should be removed from office. So impeach, and then actually move to vote via like how it works for impeachment of a president of the United States, as the HOS acting as the House of Representatives, and the enlisted and rest of the global population acting as the Senate in their votes, and acting as the jury to which the HOS will represent the case against whoever needs to be removed for inactivity.
Alrighty. So this question will be in regards to research.
Mhm.
We've recently had a lack of group projects and etc. And I was just curious on what are some group project ideas you might have for research in regards to SCPs that you could perhaps make as a site
There's
director.
so many cool stuff that you could do with SCPs. There's so much medical aspects you could bring into SCPs. A great thing I'd like to bring up is SAP 682. Great talking about cryo freeze technology, talking about how it's 682's ability. Getting researchers to say, listen, we need a better way to contain 682. Neutralization and SCP-909 are not good. Find a better way to slow down 682 to maybe try to neutralize him in such a manner to make him not to make him docile again. Um, that's a great. I think 682 is a big basis. Another one is 049. 049 is a doctor. Play around that idea. You can do a really, really, really genuinely cool experiments with the cells and the cell lining of 049's gown. Maybe allow for disassociation between that gown and the actual person behind it, whether or not there is or not. Look into research regarding that, because that could lead to further recontainment with specific technology that can focus on disabling the gown to better recontain and docile 049. There's a lot of other things you could do. 076-2, Able, and 076-1. You could look into adapting it to allow for better recontainment procedures regarding dociling him. A lot of cool things you could do. 035, another one, determining how the mask sticks on, developing an equipment to make specific people immune to 035. There's ways you can terminate 939s and all these different types of SCPs. One of my first things to do, and also because there's not a lot of group projects that occur to begin with, one of the first things I'll do with research, other than just making sure they're more organized and they given more responsibility to be more mindful over their work and be more creative, is also to give them ideas of group projects. And really, I want the researchers to be to have all that creative ability. I don't really want it to be on me, so I'm just gonna say, hey, listen, researchers, here's a thesis. You guys adapt upon this thesis. You make it yours, and you research it for the next week, and give me the results back in those in the 128 hours. And so I think that's I think that's important. I think that we give researchers the creative ability to do that. I think sometimes you have to play around with the subdivisions of research and say, hey, listen, maybe the subdivisions of research are not working because they're leading to burnout. They're leading to people just thinking that they can only research on specific SCPs. I think we need to move away from subdivisions. But for now, you can't just immediately remove them from research. You have to slowly remove them. But to begin, to just begin with, the best thing to do is just tell specific researchers who are higher up, tell the researchers, hey, listen, this is what I want to be done. Supervisor, you give an idea in that decentralization of power to their, junior researchers who just got in, and allow them to work on it for a week and report back findings to the supervisor. The supervisor can either tell them to continue or give the results to me so we can, find a better way to affect RP in general.
Alrighty. Great answer. Very elaborate. Alrighty. So this is going to be regards to a bit of out of character information. For example, the question is going to be in regards to the question in the past. Some of the SCPs are just on it just to be on it. How do you plan to make SCPs RP properly?
I want to make it RP fun because the thing is the game master program, as a large influence as I have on the community, the game master program is no less different from the rest of the influence I'll have in the community to begin with. Game masters will be heavily involved in my administration. If anything, the reason I'm on the server is just not for debriefs, and for meetings, but to be participating in events and making sure that the game masters allow for events to occur. And like I said, the best thing is you need to allow SCPs to escape avidly. This means telling game masters and putting in a protocol where game masters have random events. And these random events don't even have to be random. You just say, hey, listen, you talk in game master show, you say, hey, listen, let's let out 682. People who play 682 and constantly get fed. It's boring. What are you going to sit in there for an hour, wait for a D-class to escape? No. What you need to do instead is you need to have game masters actively involved with releasing SCPs in accordance every so often, so that it's not only less boring for SCPs and they can actually do their job as SCPs, but also allows the facility to actually do something. And so you want to promote that. And you also want to kind of give SCP mates, people who constantly play SCPs, you got to just say, hey, listen, let's just give them whitelists to play other things, so they spark interest into perming and almost maining SCPs. Back in the day in Deep, we used to have a lot of SCP mains, and now we don't. And so I think it's important to try to establish and give those freedoms to people who constantly try to play SCPs, give them more power over the RP, have them work with the game masters to allow them to, instead of just game masters having to go through this whole big event, instead of just doing this big event, just say, hey, listen, 62 is flagged up. No one's doing anything right now. Let them out of the game. Let them out of the CC. 049's not doing anything right now. It's just chilling in its cell. It's been asking for a patient for the past 30 minutes. Well, let it out of its cell. Make it fun, make it interesting. And we also have to look at a little bit of the recontainment strategies, with research. The thing with research is I want to make recontainment strategies interesting. I want to make them unique to our server. And so sometimes the research recontainment strategies are going to be really cool. And they'll add cool little unique ways to contain SCPs and allow them to change the rules so the SCPs may enjoy them. And so I think the first step is with increasing SCP activity is to allow the game masters to have the freedom to let SCPs out whenever they want and they feel like it's necessary. And also, hopefully, that would promote more people to get on SCPs and cause some havoc.
Alrighty. Moving on to the next question. Who do you think should be an EC? Do you have any preferences, any ideas on who would be good in it?
And the ethics committee?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm going to be honest with you. The two gentlemen left right now, Owl and Lynn, are very good, I think genuinely good EC members. There's a few FE guys that I would say, but I don't want to mention their names because I don't want to hold them to, that standard. I do think there's a really, really, really good member of the FE who could possibly be EC, but I don't want to hold him to that standard of having to want to join because of me mentioning his name. But um, I think that really the EC needs people who are going to be active and needs people who are going to be just and fair. I think the two best members on the committee right now are the only people left from the purge. Owl is doing a great job. I've spoken to Owl actually, and I look forward to speaking with Lynn as well. I think we're going to do a collaborative meeting later this week. You know, the point I'm trying to make is that EC in general is going to have to be rebuilt. Guidelines going to have to be reshaped. Until we can reshape those guidelines, put them into the Constitution, and get their power, and ingest their power from the Constitution, we can really focus on who we're going to make members. But the way we're going to have the application process and the interview process will allow only for the best members suited for the ethics committee to get in. And so that's what we're going to work on day one of being site director. Actually, it'll probably the guidelines will probably be already made, and application should hopefully be shooting in by the end of the first 24 hours of my administration.
Alrighty, so relating to that, I assume you agree on how Al is recruiting for the ethics committee?
Yeah, I really do like the idea of having a application process and an interview process. Make the application, see how passionate they are, what their experience is, and everything like that. The application should really just be a resume. Um, and I kind of want the EC to be a resume, the application, and the interview is actually when they can talk about real ethical questions and try to stump them and see what they would do in real time and give them questions. But I do genuinely think that the application should just always be a resume. Um, and then moving on to the interview would be a great way to determine who's good for EC. And like I said, another thing with EC too is that it has to be EC itself is going to have a bigger part in the facility now, but it's going to have a bigger part in a way that is subsiding of the site. So it's not going to be an overall role. So if you're from the FE and you're in the EC, well, you're not going to flag up as EC. You're going to flag up as FE, and when you're needed as EC, you'll go to a specific meeting. Just how it works.
Alrighty. I do like that idea because if it's a resume, it might even help people in the future.
1,000%. People should have deep gaming resumes. They should know what they've been in the past. We want guys who've been in security, been in FE, been in MTF, been everywhere, because the person who's going to be able to make the most ethically based decision is somebody that knows a lot about the site, and that's who we want in the ethics committee.
Alrighty. Regarding the current situation happening with the research administration, do you feel it should be wiped and reset, or do you feel that another sort of intervention is necessary?
I think there's intervention nonetheless that needs to be happened, but it has to be harsh. Some people know how I intervene when it comes to inactivity, when it comes to the bullshit going on in the research administration. I'm going to be honest with you. I was speaking to the director of research. We've come to a consensus, but we have come to a consensus that he needs to work on his shit. Okay, and to put it lightly, to put it the best way I can, when I intervene in divisions, it's one of two ways. You either keep your job because you got a wake up call, or you lose it within 24 hours because you did absolutely nothing and you call my bluff. When I become site director, as long with my organization of research, with my reorganization of research, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have all the research administration come together, all of them really talk to each other. I'm going to say simply, two of you have to go, and they're going to tell me. Now, I mean, listen, whether or not I let them go or not, or they make a case for who needs to go. The thing is that I want to see researchers, I want to see the research upper administration hold accountability and become more responsible. I'm giving them more responsibility. I want them to now be held accountable. So I think that's very important. Another big way we're going to do that with research is just once again holding them accountable. I'm not gonna I don't baby anybody in the site. I'm not gonna baby any HOS. The HOS are held to an extremely high standard in which they are going to be told if you go on LOA constantly, if you're inactive, if you're not giving out orders, if you're not checking up on your men, and at least being active on someone on Discord, you're going to get the fuck out of your position and you're going to be fired. You're going to be demoted and you'll be laughed at. You know why? Because you killed the division. You did this. You ruined other players' experiences. So just like research, if the director of research cannot get his wake-up call and does not understand his wake-up call within 24 hours of me giving it to him, otherwise known as when I'm inaugurated, when I'm in my inaugural speech, one of the first things I'll say about research, I say, director of research, you have 24 hours to make a change, and if you don't, you'll be fired. And I bet you I won't need to fire him because he's going to get a wake up call, and that wake up call will promote him to actually make a change in research, hopefully for the better. You still here, boss?
All right. So continuing on with questions about divisions, what division do you think is completely fine without intervention, if any?
I'm going to be honest with you. The fun without intervention is probably TCU. TCU, in my opinion, I don't think needs much intervention. If anything, they need to be given more responsibilities because they handle their responsibility fairly well. I've heard some reports that TCU is a little mingy here and there, but like every division is really mingy at this point, and at this point in time, and I really don't care. So they'll be handled just like the rest of the facility. But the TCU is really the only division that really doesn't need my specific critiquing.
Alrighty. Who is the best HOS currently, in your opinion?
In my opinion, from the ones I've spoken with, is probably the chief of security. I've talked to him, and we saw eye to eye on everything regarding security. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I've never once. I talked to a lot. I talked to all the HOS, excluding Farlow, because I don't want to give away my plans, and everything like that. But I'm gonna be honest with you. The chief of security, him, and I we were so like we saw eye to eye on pretty much everything I was saying, that there was really no need for anything. Um, no need for anything else. Like, I mean, I don't know. Caboose is such a good leader that, in all honesty, I don't think you know there needs to be some intervention because MedSec's a disaster. But when it comes to MedSec, we saw eye to eye on how we're going to fix it. We both came up with similar ideas. We were able to collaboratively work on each other. And by the same token, it's like, like if you can't collaboratively work with somebody like Caboose, if you're stuck in a nature where you don't want to collaboratively work with somebody like me and able to make your division better, you're going to be out. And out of everybody I've spoken to, he was willing to hear the critiques I had about security. And he was able to say, hey, listen, these are the problems. These are my solutions. I like your solutions. Let's put them together. Let's mesh them. Let's make it into a whole big thing. I released my doctrine just after speaking with Caboose, and I revised my entire security section immediately after speaking to him. So I think he's the most suited for his job, and I really do like the work he does. His activity is a little bit to question, but for the most part, I do think he's a really good security chief.
Alrighty. So in regards of your, if you become site director, you're going to be removing the SDG, correct?
Yeah, one of the first things I'll do is I'll say, Josh, goodbye. You are no longer SDG. Josh will serve another purpose. He's a great man. He could be a great utility member of any sort of division. But for having an SDG, it takes away from the role of the site deputy director, and it's just another role that is an unelected official. Farlow says, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna make a vote, make a vote, make a vote." No, actually, it needs to be done. SDG takes away the role, takes away the job from the SDD when the site director and the site deputy director are the exact same power. It's just one is the main figure, one is the figurehead, and one is the deputy. Just how it rolls, and it's how it's supposed to roll. Having an unelected official that's your boy that you can bring up to SDGs is a worthless, and he does what the SDD used to do, and there's no reason to have the site defense general anymore. It's got to be removed.
Alrighty. Are there any other potential SA jobs you think that might help?
Can you repeat that? You cut out a little bit.
Are there any other potential SA jobs that you think might help, and if so, what are they?
The only site administration jobs, no, there's none. The site administration should be solely elected. There's really no other roles that we need people in site administration for. Site administration, the more people you have, the more you make it into an oligarchy instead of a bureaucratic democracy. You want to maintain the bureaucracy to it instead of just making it an oligarchy. And so, EC will act as an oligarchy. The whole point about EC is it's going to be like the congressional section of the HOS, SA, and the EC together. The SA being the executive branch, the HOS acting as, will be acting as the congressional branch, or, sort of, I guess EC and HOS will both act as it, but really the EC acting as a huge check and balance on the SA and the HOS. But no, there's really no need for another SA position.
Alrighty. How will the Department of Investigations work under you, and what would you have them do first?
And when you say Department of Investigation, what are you referring to? The FE,
The
their
FE.
Department of Investigation, or?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the first things I do with the Department of Investigation is actually get it populated. I want to see guys who are passionate about.
Well, go ahead and wait a second for him to reconnect.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah, I got like booed for a second. My bad.
all good.
So with the Department of Investigation, I think it's extremely important that we get guys who are passionate about being detectives in those positions, and we know to do. There needs to be a specific vetting process, whether or not it's most likely going to be application and probably better interview based. I'm gonna put that all task on Farlow. Farlow will be purely based as a listen. Get your man in charge of the FE Department of Investigation, and I want him to get detectives, and I want him to vet the detectives that are currently in there, and then I want you to get new guys. And then I need you to start opening up investigations on whatever you see is fit. Whether or not it's opening an investigation on the previous administration, opening an investigation into a stupid cup incident. There are investigations that need to be done. There should be people that investigate branches for injury and stuff that does not go right. Stuff needs to be investigated. If 049 escapes the surface, it's got to be investigated. Even if that investigation states, oh yeah, SCP-049 escaped through the vents and it wasn't properly ventilated. Well, that report needs to be made because without that investigation, without the report, well, the MTF isn't going to certify ventilation. So I think it's very important that investigation deals with everything, and then if there's nothing going on in regards to the fact of how any big investigations like big corruption scandal. Well, they don't need to focus on scandals. What they need to focus on is some of the small things to build them up to bigger scandals. And so I think that's very important.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to add a question to this interview that I didn't think of before, but how do you feel about Site Director nominee Farlow dropping out of the election
He dropped out.
just now?
Wait, just now? What the hell? Hold on. Wait, what?
DG announcements, I believe, or I got it on the news agency.
Oh wait, I just saw it. What the hell?
Congratulations are in order, I suppose.
I don't know if. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't think he's a great competition. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really do. Yeah, but I mean, what do you call it? Yeah, I did not really see that coming at all. He was a really good competition. I had no idea that he would drop out like that. My debate with him, the whole point. I'm gonna be honest with you on this. Farlow was a great candidate. If anything, he was a better candidate than me. The only way I would win the debate, the only way I would win the election is if I win the debate. I believe my debate was very strong yesterday. I think I was able to communicate a lot of my points that I wanted to get out. And so, Farlow was a great foe to have. Not a foe in a bad foe, but a foe to be in a competition partner, somebody in a competition for the highest value in the site. Honestly, I really wanted to see how the election went, but in all honesty, he was a great competitor. And I really did enjoy the debate last night. It was one of the best debates we've had in a while.
I
So
can
I think
agree
it's
with
very
that.
important to highlight that. And Farlow's a great FE marshal. There's some things that he has to change though. Unfortunately, in the debate, we had to harp into him about the minging and everything like that. He knows that will change, and he will be held accountable. But out of all the HOS, he's one of the better. He's one of the better HOS. He knows he's not on the chopping block because the first person on the chopping block is the research director. So out of everybody, he's maybe third or fourth in the chopping block, but he's down there, so he doesn't have to worry about it. But he knows that he's been warned several times, not only by reading my doctrine, but by being in the debate, that he knows that his leadership is not called into question, but the minging has been called into question, and he will cease because once again, when I say something, when I see something, I do say something, and usually when I say something, it's a wake up call for somebody to stop. So Farlow is a great leader. He's going to be doing. He should continue to do great work in the FE. And so there should be absolutely no problem with it, nonetheless.
Alrighty. We'll go ahead and end this interview here. It was lovely speaking with you.